Welcome to the State of Affairs in partnership with Serbian Radio Chicago. We are having conversations that matter and happy to be joined by our old guest, Judge Ted Poe, former congressman and former chairman of the Serbian American Congressional Caucus, one of our favorite guests. Judge, welcome back.
Thank you, Professor. Good to be with you.
Thank you. So since our last interview, we spoke about several things, and just as we thought that the world could not get any worse, it did. And I would like to tackle several issues, one of them being the current developments in the Middle East, the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, and you being or you sitting on a terrorism committee. And having been so involved with the Balkans, you really understand terrorist organizations. So from your point of view, what is currently happening in the Middle East?
Well, ever since October, when Hamas invaded the sovereign territory of Israel with rocket launches and killed over 1,200 Israeli citizens and also killed 31 Americans, which is not talked about in our country much at all, that 31 Americans were murdered by the Hamas terrorist organization. Israel has begun to defend itself and is taking out the rocket launching sites of Hamas and the underground network of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, including the fact that Hamas has hidden part of its operation underneath a hospital in the Gaza Strip and throughout tunnels in the Gaza Strip. Israel is doing what it's supposed to do when it is attacked. It is defending itself. And they are gradually eliminating the Hamas infrastructure in the Gaza Strip to protect themselves. It's surprising to me that the world countries and people have taken the side of Hamas, a terrorist organization. They're not a country. They are a terrorist organization sponsored by Iran. And now we have Hezbollah also firing rockets from Lebanon into Israel. And Israel is protecting itself from those attacks too by retaliating. Israel is going methodically through the Gaza Strip to eliminate the Hamas terrorist organization. And we see the world media especially is taking the side of the terrorist organization and telling Hamas to keep pressing on and telling the Israelis they need to stop. In fact, Hamas is saying now, let's have a ceasefire. Well, that's really dumb when you are winning a battle for, like Israel, for example, to stop. All that would do is give Hamas time to rearm with rockets from Iran, reposition itself to continue its aggression against Israel. And we have students and universities throughout the United States and the world who are taking the side of the Palestinians, taking the side of the terrorist organization, and really hating on the Jews throughout the world and hating on Israel. I find that quite surprising that this has occurred even in our country.
Well, and that is a great point, and it leads me to the question that I wanted to ask you, and I find it surprising as well, is that effectively Israel is losing the information war and the war of narratives, which is very important, as we have seen in the past conflicts. Whatever the situation on the ground is, as long as you're winning the information war, the money will keep flowing and you will get support, especially from the United States. We saw that in case of Ukraine. Russians were running out of bullets. Zelensky's winning. That is the narrative we have been hearing. Different situation on the ground. Why is it that Israel is losing this information warfare, especially when people are sensitive about the pictures that are coming out of the Gaza Strip?
Well, Israel was not prepared for the. I say not prepared. They did not know that this would occur. This new war against them by Hamas. They were caught by surprise. Of course, their media was caught by surprise as well. However, Hamas was prepared. They had already communicated throughout the world to different organizations, primarily through social media, of what was about to happen. And as soon as the shooting started, the Hamas propaganda machine has gone viral throughout the world, and people are just trying to are taking sides and taking Hamas's sides, especially American students who are very ignorant of what has transpired in Israel since 1947, and they're taking the side of a terrorist organization. To me, that is shocking. Hamas runs the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians elected Hamas to be their government and in the Gaza Strip, and they are winning, as you have said, the propaganda war. People are blaming the Israelis. Some people are just basically saying it's okay that Gaza is shooting rockets into Israel because they are entitled to do that. And the goal of Gaza, Professor, is not to defend itself. It is to take over all of the entire Israeli nation. They want to destroy Israel. That is their goal. All Israel wants to do,
as they say, from river to sea.
That's right. That is their goal. And many people are taking that side, first of all, from prior assaults that have been taking place against Israel by Hamas, but they continue to take that side. But you have ignorant people, primarily American kids in universities, who are very ignorant of the past, ignorant of that. They take Hamas's side. They are basically saying they want to be able to kill Jews and destroy the Israel nation because they're Jewish and because Israel is an independent country. That is the goal of Hamas, and it's frightening that we have students who don't know the truth. As we all know, in war, what do they say? Truth is the first casualty. And so the Hamas propagandists and through our national media are totally lying about what took place. Israel is doing the best they can to show what they are doing as they go into Gaza, showing where the rockets were hidden in hospitals, etc. But they're losing the narrative throughout the world, and people are, once again, historically, hating on the Jews, hating on Israel because they're Jewish and because it's Israel.
I have to ask you something, though, just following specifically our conservative circles. There is a little bit of disparity even within the conservative movement in terms of not only the support for Israel. I think the support for Israel is there. However, there are elements of American Jewish community, such as the ADL, or such as some non-governmental organizations that are, as they would say, predominantly Jewish, that have in fact supported all of these Marxist, Democrat, liberal, leftist policies that are in fact indoctrinating these students that you are speaking of at universities, at these different kinds of levels of government, of non-governmental organizations, and especially those legislative policies that they have supported are now coming to haunt them. They're not being not supported by white evangelical Christian conservatives. They're actually being attacked and protested against by the very same people that they helped usher into not only United States, but all around Europe. They ushered people that hate them and hate us.
Oh, that's right. It's interesting to note that is occurring throughout the world and in the United States. In the United States, my own opinion is people who have come to the United States who are not citizens of the United States, who take a position in support of Hamas's aggression, those people should lose their visas. They should be sent back to the countries that they came from. They don't have any right to be here, and advocate a position that is different than the policy of our country, and advocate a position of war and hate against the Jewish nation. I think they should lose their visas. But there are a lot of people who we have allowed come into the country because of their background and because of where they came from, they hate Israel. They just hate Israel. They don't believe that there should be a Jewish state, or they think that they should at least stop the defense of Israel, set up what they think is a two-state solution. And remember, Gaza doesn't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution with them in charge and Israel to be completely annihilated. And I don't understand why so many people take a position that is contrary to the rule of law, contrary to humanity, and support a terrorist organization that we in the United States have said they are an enemy of the world and an enemy of the United States. But people are taking that position.
And this brings us to our second point that I want to talk to you about. As a judge, as somebody who really has a great grasp on our law, law and order is very important. You sit in Texas, it's a border state. Speaking of all these people that are just pouring into our country, not only that they are taking positions that are contrary to what our nation is all about, there is simply lawlessness happening on the grand scale within the country by, again, supported by these same policies and by these same politicians. And at the same time, our cities are being invaded, and there is an element of criminal activity never seen before, and somehow that is okay. When and how do we reestablish the rule of law?
It's going to take some time, Professor, because the United States, basically on the southern border, there is no law. It's a lawless area. The administration has allowed 7 million people to cross into the United States. And my question is, when is it an invasion? You know, the Constitution, our document that says what the law is supposed to be, says that the United States government is to protect us from invasion.
Yes.
Our state constitution says we're to be protected by government against invasion. I think it's an invasion. It doesn't say armed
Absolutely.
invasion. It says invasion. And we have an invasion, and the administration is missing in action and allowing this to occur. Therefore, the rule of law, which is you don't come into this country without permission, is being ignored. That creates anarchy throughout the country. And it is doing that. And you see that same philosophy in our cities about, let's say, crimes of violence or theft, for example. When people are not held accountable to the law, which is the standard. The standard is what is written down, the law. People are not being held accountable to the law. It promotes violations of the law. Yeah. And I call that anarchy. And that there's no consequences. Many times when we see it, when people bust into stores as a group, take anything they want, they run out the door. Some of them are caught, they're let go. Most of them get away with it because there is no rule of law that requires consequences. It promotes anarchy. It promotes fear. The first duty of government is to protect its citizens. You know, people ask all the time, why do we have government? Well, it's to protect the citizens. And government is totally failing on that. In many of our large cities, there is chaos and there is fear by those who try to follow the law, and fear from those people who are doing whatever they please. Now, Professor, we have this movement in our country who says, well, the folks that are committing these crimes, violent crimes, these theft crimes, they are oppressed people, therefore they can retaliate by committing crimes against the oppressors, which are the people who own the stores, for example. And they try to justify their conduct, but there is no justification. If you steal something, you need to be held accountable for it. And as we have talked about, because that is not, accountability is not something that is important to the left. That's why we have what we have. And of course, all of this is a Marxist concept of lawlessness, overthrow the ruling class, you know, create conflicts between the wealthy, the poor, the different races in the country, the different areas in the country. Any way you can divide the United States into different little tribes or groups, and then have them all hating on each other. That's a Marxist concept. And
yes,
that's what's happening in the United States. It's being promoted by the media in many cases, but it's also being promoted by elected officials who ought to know better.
The criticism of the elected officials, there are many, but one of the latest ones that I'm hearing, given that we're entering a new election cycle, President Trump set out this theme of America first. Given what is happening in the Middle East, given what is happening in Ukraine, I think aside from our elected officials who obviously love war, the American people are tired of war. But the American people are also seemingly tired of the elected officials and politicians speaking in such glorified terms that we must support other countries' borders, and yet they don't seem to have this same passion when they speak about the United States. So in terms of what's going on in Ukraine and Israel, how do we compensate now with where the American people are? And I'm pretty sure you know this. They're tired of war. They're tired of us funding all these things. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They truly want America first, which takes care of their economy, takes care of their gas prices, takes care of everything that matters to them directly.
Well, the philosophy, in my opinion, that's coming out of Washington, D.C., especially with the administration, is not America first, but America last. Everybody else but America. Every country, every nationality except America, we need to put first. That's what they are doing by their philosophy. And about the wars that are going on, I do think Americans personally are tired of war. But the war party controls the United States. It's another party. It's made up of Republicans and Democrats who've never seen a war that they didn't want to get involved in. Let's go invade some country. Let's go start dropping bombs on somebody. That of course has happened many times in the United States, where we beat the drum of the war and we go in and fight somebody's war that we don't have any business being in that country at all. We change the landscape. We change governments. That is not our duty, our responsibility. And I think it's morally wrong for us to take that position. And of course, the United States did that when it went into and started bombing Serbia. I didn't think the United States had any authority, any right to lead the NATO groups into that war. But the war party is strong. That's my point. And it's made up of Republicans. Yeah, that's a good term. I call it the war party, but it's made up of Republicans and Democrats, and they outvote the people who want peace. But there's a lot of money in being involved in the war party.
Yes,
Eisenhower said it first. The military-industrial complex of the United States. There's a lot of money in making bombs, planes, ships, rockets, and we spend a lot of money in that area. And there's a lot of money, I think, that the war party gets back through contributions, legal contributions.
Sure.
But I, of course, we always enter wars recently in my lifetime with no exit strategy. Vietnam, we just up and left. Same is true with Iraq. Same is true with Afghanistan. We just leave. We go blow the place up, and then we leave. There's no victory. There is only damage. And Libya probably is another example where we just go blow up Libya under Hillary's philosophy, and then we leave. And Libya is in turmoil. It's chaos. It's anarchy. You have different groups trying to fight for control. But the war party is in control. We have to vote. We have to vote people in who will put America first. The Texas-Mexico border, it needs to be protected. And it needs to be protected before we go over to Ukraine and try to protect its border with somebody else or any other country. But it's not. It's not being protected. And I think it's malfeasance on the part of our government to to put any other country, any other nationality ahead of us. It's wrong, and it violates the law.
Speaking of elections, I've been meaning to ask you this for a long time. You know, I say it often, we miss you in Congress so much. But the person that replaced you, you have a great district. I know what the people voted for when they voted for you. How they elected Dan Crenshaw, who now seemingly is standing on even though a conservative Republican, or so he says, but he seems to be a part of that war uniparty, which many of us found surprising. What is, I guess, the feeling within your district? And I'm not asking you to criticize a colleague in a way, but at the same time, just knowing what you stood for and knowing your district, and now we have somebody almost polar opposite. What is the sense about it within your district now?
Well, the people I talk to, they agree with me that we should be seeking our own security before we start messing in the affairs of other people throughout the world. Haven't taken a poll in my district at all. I don't know. I don't know the results of that poll, what it would be, but I think most Americans, though, many Americans do side with the war party, and they're in charge of what we do. I think that we need to step back and put America first and go from there. And like I said, I don't think we don't have the right to go into somebody else's country and start blowing it up. And anyway, the uniparty, the war party, it's very unfortunate, but no insight. And probably the best example recently is Afghanistan. Look, we're in war for 20 years. There are many Americans.
Yes.
We have a generation of Americans who never had peace in their lifetime because we were in war with Afghanistan. And what do? We turned and ran, and we left equipment there. We left people there. It's shameful what happened in our retreat, in our disaster in Afghanistan. And of course, the Iranians and the Chinese, they reaped the rewards of us leaving all that equipment in Iraq.
Well, essentially, we are now witnessing. We are witnessing a multipolar world forming around us, not a unipolar world anymore. The Western geopolitical construct led by the United States essentially is on a decline. Is a multipolar world a good development in your opinion?
No, that's what leads to world wars, when you have polarized nations. Let me say this, in Ukraine, this concept that people say we have to fight for democracy in Ukraine. Well, Ukrainian government is corrupt. It's not a democracy. There is no national interest for the United States to be at war there. Israel is different. It is not a corrupt nation. It's a sovereign country who we have sworn to support if they ever attacked. And that's what we are doing. There's a difference between the two concepts. Of course, I support our involvement in helping Israel and Ukraine. We need to step back and say, why are we doing this? So I just wanted to say that. So interesting.
Judge, as always, thank you so much for your insights. We always value your opinions.
Thank you, Professor.